up, friends? Happy Wednesday. So happy to have you here. Really excited about today's show because we are going to be talking about physical media and nostalgia with Garrett of Born2BeRad. Of course, you know him. He is, as I like to say, a physical media and nostalgia king. He has this terrific movie room tour video on his YouTube channel showing off all his memorabilia, all his physical media, everything of that sort. I'm so excited to welcome to the show. Please say hello to Garrett.
Woo! What is going on, Diandra? Thank you so much for having me in that intro, kid. I love it.
Woo woo! Oh, I love everything that you do because I've told you this before, but I am very picky when it comes to physical media. Hey there, Cody. How's it going?
What's up, Cody?
Yes, thank you for roundhouse kicking that like button. And so, hey, Jeremiah, you know what? Let's just say hi to everybody who's in the comments. Jeremiah, what's up, buddy? Hello. Ooh, look, free streaming service, YouTube. Yes, we love Tubi here. We love Tubi. Worm Hunter said, I buy physical media when I can because streaming platforms remove the movies and shows. It's more expensive yearly to keep streaming. Yeah. What do you think about that, Garrett? Do you think in the end, it's more cost effective?
I don't know if it would be cost effective, and we can probably touch upon that. But I think that's the big thing right now is that, yeah, it's convenient. It's at your fingertips. And yeah, they're putting out, exclusive stuff, which I think is really cool too. But I think at the end of the day, the concern really just is, if there's favorites of yours that are there and then they're no longer there, if you don't own a physical copy, then, I mean, you could go years without watching that movie nowadays. I mean, you could probably find it on YouTube or something like that. But I think, to have the physical copy, just, I don't know if it's a nostalgia thing for me or just, just makes you feel like you own it, or I feel like even with streaming and stuff, like I don't really feel like I own that. So therefore, it just can come and go. And I don't feel like connected as much as I do if I have like a physical copy or something.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You're at the mercy of pretty much anybody. Let's see. I wanted to watch the I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy, and only the first one was streaming until this month. So I was like, man, if only I owned it. Or Jason and I are going through all the major horror film franchises right now. And some of them are streaming, some of them are not. And then with streaming, you're like, okay, that's streaming, but you've got ads in the middle of it. Or the quality isn't that great, something like that. So I've been thinking more about how much I need to buy physical media. Physical media is bitchin'. The older that I get, the more I realize it. Because, I grew up with VHS and then going into DVD. I mean, I started collecting laser discs, but yeah. What about you, Garrett? Where did you start collecting? Was it just, how did you get into it?
Well, I think what it comes down to is I've always had a collecting mindset, even as a kid when it came to toys. And, I remember my first action figure line I really collected was He-Man, and I was like really young, and that's the one I can remember the most. And it was not just like I needed one or two guys, like I needed everything. So it became like for my birthday, for Christmas, like all I wanted was He-Man toys until I could have all of them, the vehicles, the the bases, the castles, and all that stuff. And then when I got a little bit older, it went right to Ninja Turtles, the same story. I had to go get everything, and then it was Ghostbusters, and it just kind of worked down that chain. It was wrestling. And then, even there was even a point in time where I was getting all the McDonald's toys and Happy Meals, but like, then I would go home after getting one and I'd have to like get every one I'd ever own and like put them all together and stuff. Like I always had this weird mindset of like, it wasn't just I have a toy or whatever. It was always like I needed to collect whatever it was that I was focused on that day or that month or that year. Video games the same way. And I think, being such a big fan of movies growing up, and once I had the avenue to start collecting things of my own, obviously we had VHSs as like a family growing up, but sometimes I'd kind of put them all together in the cases and put them in my room or something like that. And that's even before I had a TV in my room. I just felt like I wanted that connection to those movies. And it started with VHS, but it really got heavy for me around the DVD times, because that's when I had income that I could just go off and spend, where before it was like I was a little kid, so I didn't have the income for VHS. It was more or less me bugging someone to buy it for me. So I think really it started with toys, then it went into VHS, and CDs actually were a big one I was collecting for a long time. And then it got into the DVD game, and that's when the movie stuff just started getting crazy, was when DVD really hit.
Oh yeah. Did you have like a tradition like on Friday nights? Like for me, we would go to a local video store, just a mom and pop one that also had a pizza place. So we'd pick up the pizza, pick up a video, come home every Friday until let's see, what did we have? Most of the mom and pop stores where I came from closed down pretty early, but we had family video for a while. And that was about it. But what about you? Did you have any traditions growing up like that?
Of course. As a kid, as a young kid, I can remember we used to go out to, it was either Friday night, we'd go out as a family, maybe Sunday nights too. Like we'd always go out to dinner somewhere. And then it was always, it
Aw.
seemed like if it was a Friday, we'd go to the video store and we'd rent something. And sometimes my mom would go in and just rent something that she doesn't think we've seen and we'd watch it. Or we'd go, my brother, myself, my father would go, and then my brother and I would pick something out. And that was a routine that we had growing up. And then when I could drive, my buddy and I would go. This was when I was in college. Like every Tuesday, we would go to Best Buy, or we had a place here, Newberry Comics or Circuit City or Leechmere or whatever it was, and we'd buy like some of the new releases. Then we'd go back and we'd get lunch, and then we'd go to my buddy's house or my house and we'd watch whatever we bought. And that just became a routine and a ritual. Probably it felt like for 10 years, of my late teens, early 20s. I felt like it really was something that him and I would do all the time. And then once, things happened where we got full-time jobs and, we weren't able to do it anymore, I still found myself on a Tuesday or a Wednesday going out and buying stuff. I was just out today in the area, and I went to Best Buy and bought something. So I mean, it's always still there, it's just not to the
Mhm.
extent because number one, I have so much and I've got to be a little bit more picky now with what I'm upgrading because back then when you could go to the store and buy things for $10 and you go to the used section and you could buy horror movies on DVD for like $1.99 and leave with 10 things and be like under $50. Now, I mean, you're lucky to get something under 30,
Yeah.
and that's where I think it's really changed is that it's not as much of a disposable income anymore. It's really like it's almost like a monthly bill you kind of rack up, because things are very expensive and these companies are releasing things day in and day out. Every day I look at my phone and there's new releases pop. I've never seen the physical media world like it is now in a time where a lot of people look and say physical media is dead. I mean, in one end of the spectrum, you could say it's dying, but at the other end of the spectrum, when you're really in it, you're like, it's never been this crazy. So it's kind of shifted from like going to the stores and grabbing stuff now than more like on websites and stuff. And like you said earlier, you know, do I think we're in for, more like little boutique stores popping up where you can get a lot of the stuff that you can only get online? I do see that up because there are a couple that are out there and they're always very busy and it seems. So I think that's kind of something we can look forward to in the future. But I thought it was funny when you brought up your experience because you said you used to go to a mom and pop shop that would have renting VHS or DVD and they would have pizza there. And there was one like that near me, and it was called Pizza Pie Movie Guy, it was called, and it was the same story.
That's
You'd go in there and
cute.
they'd have like the pizza section and you'd order your pizza and then you'd go while it's cooking, you'd go and find what you wanted to rent, and then it was you'd get it and then you'd check it out and you'd go. And I thought it was pretty cool that you had the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it made it so convenient. I guess back in those days, everybody just knew that, all right, we're all here, we're all talking about it. We go to rent a movie and we want pizza. Pizza and movies go together like
Sure.
peanut butter, jelly, whatever. Um, we have a lot of fans of physical media in the comments. I mean, Cody had it so nailed. It's true. I feel like I know I
Mhm.
said collecting, but back in the day, it was just like, I really like this thing. I want to have it. I remember I was a big, huge Britney Spears fan. And every time they would come out with some VHS of Britney, whatever it was, I had to have it. I had to watch it. But I wasn't like, I'm going to have this collection. I just wanted everything. And then the Phantom of the Opera in 2004, and they came out with a 2-disc thing. And I said, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I got to have all this, have all the extras and things like that. But the older that I've gotten, you're totally right. It is much more expensive. I used to always just buy little things for very, very cheap. And
Mhm.
now they're so expensive. And I feel like I've gotten pickier, but the way that Jason and I like to watch things is 4K Blu-ray. What's your preference for watching a
Yeah.
movie?
Um I would probably say the higher quality. Like to be honest, I've spoke about this before. Is I'm as much as I love 4K. I mean, I do sometimes have some issues with it. And again, everybody's like, well, maybe it's your setup. I don't know. I mean, I've got a pretty nice setup, but I feel like sometimes, like when you know a movie really, really well, and then you pop in like a new
Mhm.
upgraded 4K, I find that a lot of times it's very dark, and I'm like, this just doesn't feel the same as it did the 100 other times I've watched it. So I'm being a little bit more picky with what I'm upgrading, because sometimes it's either going to give you a whole different experience in a good way, or sometimes I feel like it gives me a whole new experience in a not so good way. And then it's like, well, I just spent $40 on that. But that's really good to find out with people. Like, do they have a particular way they like to watch it? Because that can change everything. I know nowadays it's almost like 4K or bust in most collectors' eyes, right? But like I said, my heyday, or my favorite point of collecting was the DVD era. Now, do I still watch DVDs? Yeah, I do. Do I upgrade a lot of the DVDs I have? I do that as well. But to find people that actually don't care, I think is almost refreshing, because there's so much out there that they can get their hands on, that they don't have to go crazy with spending an arm and a leg. Like, and so there's some cool stuff out there. And now I almost feel like the DVD is part of the whole cycle of the way the world works. Is like, I kind of seeing some of that sneak back in, where some editions, like I can see it right there, that Elm Street edition is like, in my eyes and maybe yours, that's like a grail item, right? So
Mhm.
to somebody that maybe 2 years ago could have found that on eBay for $10 because nobody wanted it anymore, I think in all of a sudden in a year or two, something like that is going to be up in price again, to try to get your hands on a nice copy of that, because we weren't as crazy as we were now. Like, now there's people that are buying protectors to go over every disc that they're buying, and they're putting them in plastic bags so they don't get ruined. We weren't doing that. So if you can find that set in like mint condition, like, I mean, that's a pretty rare piece to have, because back then we would just throw it on our shelves and saying we have it, it's not a big deal, and whatever happens happens. And you've moved across the country with that thing. I'm sure it wasn't in a protective case, you know what I mean? So
No.
it's I think like that kind of stuff like is going to have a resurgence the same way VHS did, because I would have never 10 years ago told you VHS tapes were going to be in again, because I must have sold 80%, 90% of my VHS collection for like dirt cheap. Like, I remember having garbage bags full of them, and meeting a guy in a parking lot and opening my trunk and handing him the garbage bags of like 200 horror movies on VHS for like $80, because I needed the space. I was still living at home. I had all these movies on DVD already. So I was like, what do I need all these for? And now looking back on it, I'm like, that was the stupidest thing I ever did, because I had so much stuff that I wish I still had, and I've recently bought those again, some of them, but I paid way more. I've already paid more than what I sold them for. And it's the same deal. People are like, why don't you get rid of a lot of your DVDs? Well, I just don't think now's the right time. I think everything kind of comes full circle. And if there is anything I want to ever get rid of just due to space, like, I think there's a right time for it. I just think we're not there yet.
Yeah. I definitely think, and I feel like Cody said, "Let's talk about Rumpelstiltskin on DVD for $100 when you should have bought it for 10." I know. There's
Exactly. Right.
so many things that would, especially when video places unfortunately were going out of business and they were selling everything. Like, I should have bought it then, because
Hmm.
yeah, dude, it is so expensive now. Do you have an FYE by you, Garrett? Because sometimes you can find used horror movies. That's where I used to buy a lot of my used horror movies for like
Yeah, that's the
$3.
only spot that I have anywhere near me that has anything used. I mean, except if I go into like a thrift store, but that's like the Wild West. I mean, I could go in there one day and find a gem. Like, I went in there one day and I found like a mint copy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 on VHS. I was like, what? Like, that thing goes
Holy
for big
moly.
money. I found it for like $1. But then at the same time, you go in there and there's nothing. There's like two
Yeah.
DVDs sitting on the shelf. So it's really, the Wild West when it comes to that. But I don't have any used stores around me anymore. I used to. But no, the only place is FYE. That's it. That would have anything used around me at this point.
Yeah, that's the same with me. I very, very much like wish that there was more. And some people don't even have FYE in their area. So I imagine that they just go thrifting. There was this place in Ohio when I lived there called The Exchange that I loved. They have some Ohio locations, Chicago, and then I think one other place. And they were like FYE. They had just this giant like video, music, VHS sections of just used records and everything that were just super, super cheap.
Hmm.
Yeah. I see a lot of things making comebacks too, Venom, really. And I feel like there's almost this cycle, and now that the millennials are in charge, that we're kind of tapping into this nostalgia more and more. I mean, we've had a lot of remakes and we've had a lot of shows coming back now, and I think that's because the generation from the 80s and the 90s are growing up and saying, "Hey, we want to see this back a little bit."
Right.
And so that's why I'm wondering, because prices now of TV shows and streaming platforms are getting so high. Hey girl, how you doing? That Hi. Hey sweet. Love to see you here. Hi Danny. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Um but I feel like there's this cycle of everything's getting so expensive again. Are we just going to end up being like, okay, I want to see these video stores again. I want that to happen. I want to be opening this. So maybe it's cheaper. And then it's just kind of like this
Right.
ongoing cycle. What do you think, Garrett?
I mean, when you put it that way, I can see it, in the sense that people might look at that as will be like, well, I can kind of get what I'm looking for. It's cheaper than even paying for streaming, because the problem is with streaming too is that sometimes like you'll be like, oh, I want to watch this, but it's only on this streaming platform that I don't have. So then it's like, okay, well then I'll just buy it for the month or whatever. And then all of a sudden you forget, and then you're realizing like, oh my God, I'm paying just as much as I was paying for cable that I canceled 3 years ago thinking I was gonna make out. But now I have all these different streaming services that I'm barely using because I wanted it for like 2 movies on this one, a movie over on that one, where, yeah, sometimes it can catch up and it's almost like you don't realize it. So maybe, doing video stores, mom and pop shops, I would say, are probably the ones that would actually do well. But I also think gimmicks are a big thing. Like we talked about Pizza Pie Movie Guy, like that could maybe work now, right? Like something like that I think could work. Like it's the experience of it. Like, or,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you have a video store that does that, but they also sell, different things like that are movie related. So there's more going on in that store besides just the renting stuff. And like I said before, these little boutique stores that are popping up, like the one near me is like 2 hours south of me, and it's called the Archive, and it's basically like the Vinegar Syndrome store. That's a boutique
Oh,
company,
cool.
and they sell like you go in there and it's like heaven. Like they've got wall to wall, all out of print, like all old horror DVDs, stuff that you're going through and being like, oh my God, I forgot about this. Like, and they're selling them, and then they've got the new stuff that you can only get online. All the stuff that stores, your local store would never carry. The stuff that you're going online and paying big money to have it shipped to you, they're selling that stuff, and it's a little bit more of a niche market. But I mean, you go in the back and there's like, they got horror comic book section, they've got books, they've got clothing. Like, I mean, it's kind of like a one-stop shop. And sometimes they'll do signings in there with like a different, I think Linnea Quigley did a signing in there. And so I mean, those type of environments I think are something that could be a little bit more what we're seeing in the future, is these online stores that people are shopping, maybe start creating more of like retail spaces. Could maybe work if they make it more of an event, because I know people in the community that are traveling to meet up with other people at these specific locations that are doing things like this. Is almost like destinations where, if there was a couple more popped up here and there, I think that could be something that could maybe work.
I think that is a great idea to combine like toy store and buying the things with having rentals. Yeah, right. Uh, Jason told me, and then I was a late to the party, but that family video was a front for the mob. I'm not surprised, because for a while there, I'm like, there's nobody in here. How are they still in business? And I
Right.
guess they went out of business when they got busted.
That is funny. Now there's nothing around you in Vegas. You figure Vegas would have different things there that, like somewhere like these hidden treasures or something like that.
We still have a lot of exploring to do. We have Nightmare Toys here, which
Oh
sells a
yeah.
lot of DVDs, and they have the signings and things like that. But if something like that was to combine with, rentals and then buying and then the toys, it's like that one-stop shop for everything that you need. And then you invite people from movies to come in and do
Mhm.
signings. It's not just, and then you have a pizza place, because we all need the pizza place.
Heck yeah. But
I
Nightmare
think,
Toys, like, I mean, they kinda do what I'm
yeah.
saying too. Like, they have a lot. You
Hmm.
can, if you want something from Trick or Treat Studios, maybe it's sold out online. You go to that store, you live near it, they could have it in
Yeah.
stock. Boom, you got it. And they just did a signing, I think, with like Felissa Rose, like last week. Like, I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Is it's for people, it's almost like a destination place. If I was ever in that area, I'd be like, oh, I need to definitely go check that out because I've never seen it. But yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
think
come
that
on
maybe
by.
places like that. I would love to. I mean, I need to make my way out west, especially because I told you, I think before I told you and Jason that the Santa Cruz boardwalk where they film the Lost Boys has been like on my to-do list since I was a little kid, and I'm like, I just gotta make time and just do it. Because I make it seem like
I
it's this magical faraway place where I mean, in reality, I just need to have a weekend that I just buy a ticket and go, you know? It's not the end of the
Yeah.
world, but I make it seem like it's like this like place I can never get to, you know?
You just gotta ride a tornado there, and then it'll drop you off. You'll be like, "Wow, the other side of the rainbow is here."
Basically. Right,
Yeah, but
right.
if you fly into Las Vegas, and then you do some of the things here, because we have all that, then we have,
Sure.
Tom Delvin's Monster Museum and just a couple of other things like escape rooms, and then do the drive to Cali. I think you would love that. It is when we did it, it was magical. So I think that that would be such a fun thing for you to do.
What's
But
the
I'm gonna
drive
look at
from
some.
you to Cali look
Yeah,
like?
it is. So it's like 4.5
Not bad.
hours with traffic. We usually take 5 because of the stops. You
Sure,
gotta eat,
sure.
you gotta
I
snack,
mean,
you gotta grab a little something, something.
I'm so bad with all that because I live in the smallest state in the United States. So like to me, I can get across the whole state in like 45 minutes, right? So when I go to like other places, I have no concept of like time or anything like that. Like I'll be like, oh, I'll just go to Cali. And then I'm like, well, how far is Santa Cruz from this spot? And it's like, oh no, that's like,
Mhm.
12 hours. And I'm like, well, shoot, you know what I mean? Like I can't concept like how far things are because it's for me, it's really easy.
Yeah. I guess I don't know what the culture is where you are, but in Ohio, we had always joked that we'll be like, "Oh, it's 12 hours from here. We'll drive. That's easy. That's an easy drive."
Right, right.
So for us, it was always driving over flying. And I just really like long road trips. Like sometimes I look at cars going on the highway and I'm like, "Where are you going to? What magical destination are you going to end up?"
It
But
is
I
so
think
funny.
you would like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that you say that because I go to Monster Mania, which is about 5 hours from me south, and every time I'm about to go, I'm like, "Oh, I gotta do this drive." It's only 5 hours, it's not that bad, but to me, I'm like, "Connecticut never ends," you know? I'm like, so it's just crazy.
That is way too funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Pizza, ice pick to the eye. Yes, I would rather enjoy my pizza without an ice pick to the eye. Thank you. So would like that. All right, let's see what other questions I have here. Okay, so I read an article today that posed the question about nostalgia and said, so with all of this resurfacing, are we to look at the past as something we could learn from or something they want us to look at that we should obsess over and try to recreate? What do you think?
Hmm. I think my opinion would probably be different than what the world's opinion is, but I almost feel like I would like to recreate it because I don't know, but I don't know if it was just like social media and being able to do this is so huge because I could never do this before and find like-minded people from the whole world to chat with.
Mhm,
Like it would never be able to happen back then. But I just feel like I don't know, like I think everything felt simpler back then, and I don't know if it was because we had less of all this. I don't know if there was more creativity when it came to certain things back then because we didn't have so much that had been done. So where now a lot of things are being treaded over again because it's like, it's already been done. And to me, there was always so much cool stuff back then that was being created. Like I still don't understand how people like Freddie and Jason and Michael Myers are still like the go-to of these icons where all these years have passed. And I'm like, we've created maybe two iconic figures since like the 80s, which is could be like Ghostface and I mean, I guess right now you could say that um Art the Clown is kind of getting up there, but I mean, it's not to the same point as what we had back then. I mean, they're still recreating and rebooting and all these franchises from the 80s where in a part of me I'm intrigued by it, but I'm kind of like why has it been such a disconnect and we can't come up with something that we're going to remember in 20 years down the road as something iconic like from even the 2000s. Like the 90s did pretty good, but I feel like to me
mhm.
the 2000s and up like it just hasn't hit that level and I don't know why.
I was thinking about that. When it comes to nostalgia, I feel like either I wonder if, is it because of 9/11? We're like, were things the good times before then? Or is it just like when we were all kind of born, it just seemed that way. And then we grew up with the internet and we were like, oh, it's a different time, but we can also revisit the things that make us nostalgic more now because people
Mhm.
have it on VHS and they upload it to YouTube, or we have pictures and we put it on X or Twitter and
Mhm.
things like that. So is it just keeping the nostalgia alive? And did everybody feel that same way like our parents? Did they think, "Oh, I miss those times when I was growing up," or is it just more prevalent now?
I don't know. I'm gonna say I talk about this kind of stuff all the time, like what I grew up with, but I don't ever remember my parents ever really, obsessing over when they grew up. I mean, I just don't recall those kind of conversations. That's at least in my house. It just seemed like it was just things just kind of moved. But for me, it's like I'm always looking back. And I posted something on socials the other day is that, even when I go to like Walmart or something, I'll like always, even to this day, I'll make a trip down the action figure aisle just because it was such a huge thing for me. And the other day I went down there and I'm looking around, I'm like, Transformers, Ninja Turtles, wrestling, superhero He-Man. I'm like, it's basically what I looked at when I was a kid, but now it's all back for these kids now.
Mhm.
But I'm like, but is it really for these kids? Like, where are they connecting with this? Because
Yeah.
a lot of these, it's not even like an updated version of some of this stuff. It's like recreations of what we grew up with, where we had a He-Man cartoon that went with these characters. Like, they don't have that. So I'm like, are they marketing to kids or are they marketing to us? The people
Yeah.
that FOMO will kick in, or like nostalgia will kick in, and it's a hell of a drug, and all of a sudden you're like shelling out money to get back your happiness from when you were a kid. I have no idea. I can't tell what's going on here, really.
You're totally right. I read that somewhere, but, like, yeah, there's some rehashing of old things, but yeah, is it for us or is it for the young kids? And they really don't have I try to keep up with them, but it doesn't seem like they have the same sort of pop culture, cartoons, movies in the
Mm-mm.
same way that maybe we did. Someone was saying that it took a lot longer to make movies back in the day, and so people treasured those more because a lot more went into them.
Sure.
But I don't know how true that is. And the idea that people always say that movies, they just don't make them like they used to. Do you think that, Garrett? Do you think they just don't
I
make them
do.
like they used to? Yeah.
I do, and I think it has to do with maybe creativity, freedom, probably that
Mm,
maybe people had back then, where maybe they don't have so much of now when it comes to, their visions and stuff. And I think like a lot of times, I think it's the creativity. Like so many things have been done that I think people either will try to mimic something that's already been done or afraid to, and then it kind of get a little sloppy because they're afraid people are going to just refer it to whatever it may have pieces of from the past. I mean, I'm not really sure, but I mean, there are some good things that come out. Like, I really enjoyed Talk to Me as a horror movie. I liked it a lot. And I mean, the concept wasn't really new, but they took it and they twisted it in a way that it was. So, having a possessed object like a Ouija board or whatever it may be that we've seen before, but they kind of twisted it into a different way where, yeah, we've seen concept like that before, but they're using it almost as like a drug. Where before
mhm,
we see a lot of this stuff where it's almost like something was done accidental, and then they realized that, they opened a door to this, where this was done intentionally to post on social media. But there was really, and it kind of shows you like that when you're behind a phone, some things that are going in front of you, it's almost like the conception is not real. Like, but this person's being possessed, and everybody's laughing and filming it like it's a big joke. But when you take the phone away and you're like, no, this person's like really being possessed and in danger, it's weird. It's like a different mindset. And I think it was really cool and well done. And it was pretty original, but at the same time, like I said, it wasn't completely original, but I think they were able to kind of twist it to make it pretty unique. And those are the type of movies that I'm really excited to kind of find, because again, it's new enough, and I think that's what I really look for when it comes to just falling in love with new stuff. The rest, man, I'm really bad when it comes to movies nowadays. I really need to be a little bit better with what I check out, because I'm so easily to just kind of brush things off like, I don't have the time. I'll go back and watch The Exorcist again or whatever. Like, that's what ends up happening all the time. Like, I just go back and watch like the old stuff over and over again.
I am the same way. I'm always like, "Oh, there's so much new stuff," and then I'm like, "I just wanna keep watching that." Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm with Garrett and I'm with all of you guys that Talk to Me is so it was such a good movie. And yeah, because everybody does things for entertainment, and you start to bring in ghosts and possession for entertainment,
Right.
that's gonna have its consequences. It
I mean, yeah,
really
you
is.
look at even social media, like on TikTok and stuff, and how many times have you been scrolling through and seeing people like filming car accidents and people hurt and all this stuff? And you're like, nobody's helping, everybody's filming. And it's like, do they not realize like it's good content, but like what's really going on the other side of this phone is like, is bad, right? So that's where I think
Mhm.
that the world now is a little bit skewed because, you know, if you see somebody in a car accident, like, you know, begging for their life and all everybody's around is doing is standing there trying to get content, not actually helping this person out. It's a scary place out there sometimes. And, you know, that's where I think we're in a little bit of I don't know, a weird territory with like the kids coming up now because, you know, they might not see that from a different lens, you know, than what it
Yeah,
really is. So, it's
that's
very interesting when you
such a
start
good point.
thinking about little things like that.
Yeah, because everything's content, even with a lot of these parents, and some of them are getting in trouble about, how you reprimand your kids, how you do
Mhm.
this, that, or the other thing. It's now views first, parenting second, or views first being, helping someone out. I was watching this thing on TV. I forget what it's called. Everybody out there might know, but it was about the people in Los Angeles who go and they have police scanners and they hear where things are happening and they go and they film it.
Mhm.
And during this one part, this guy who, because that's how they make money, they try to compete with each other and sell it to the news sources. So that's how their income is. And this guy watched this car break down and then he watched it get hit and set on fire. And I'm like, what's he going to do? Is he going to film it? What's he going to? But he put down his camera and he went and he took the guy out of the vehicle, which was nice because to think that we're even questioning that now because it's such a norm of people constantly filming rather than going and helping or even stopping to think like should this happen, should this not happen.
Mhm.
um there is some of that humanity that
Now, have
kind of
you seen
comes
that
out of
movie
it.
Nightcrawler? That's very similar to what you just talked about. Okay.
Jason told me that. I have not watched it,
You'd
but
probably
I
like
want to
it.
see it now. I am definitely going to add that to my
It's
long
basically
growing
just
list.
exactly what you just said. Yeah, it's exactly like that. Now, it's interesting too because to be honest, like I don't where I live, like I don't really see a ton of, you know, people creating content, you know, when I'm out. Do you get that where I mean, being in Vegas and stuff, like do you see that a lot where a lot of people are filming? I
I
don't see that at
actually
all anywhere here.
I think one time it was coming off of an escalator, someone was filming in front of us when we were coming back into Vegas. But outside of that, I really haven't seen people in the wild. But as Halloween is coming up a little
Mhm.
more, expecting to see more of that. But surprisingly, no, I've
Mhm.
seen people just film stuff, but I haven't seen people creating like content of any sort. Haven't seen
Yeah.
dancers in the wild or anything like that.
Like you're not going
So,
down the strip and seeing like 25 people vlogging down the road, right? No.
yeah, not at all.
I'm
Everyone's
surprised,
just
you know?
everyone's just sweaty and drunk. They've got those really big drinks, you know what I'm talking about? They're like this big, $100.
Oh my
That's what
god.
I see. Yeah. Oh, we've got some Halloween 3 love in the comments.
What's up,
Yes,
Fozzie?
I loved Halloween Ends. Would like to
I
say,
I
Garrett, what
liked
are your
Ends
thoughts on
too.
Ends?
I actually liked Ends. And you
Woohoo.
know, yeah, I said that in my review. I think that again, Ends is interesting because would it be how I would have finished this franchise off? No. Do I think it was they could have done something better? Yes. Do I think that he knew exactly what he was doing going into this? I don't think he did. I don't know. I really still don't understand what he was doing with this because how could he not think that there would be huge backlash for this? But I had fun with the movie. I liked the movie. I still nobody's brought this up really except I think I did in my review, but when I watch Ends and you see her at the beginning kind of doing her memoirs and whatnot, and I'm watching Ends and it's so bizarre. Like even the acting is bizarre, the dialogue's bizarre, the story's bizarre, and even just listening to them talk to each other in dialogue and the way that the movie kind of flows, it just almost feels like it just moves from like page to page. A part of me felt like I almost watching that movie, I almost feel like I'm reading a story. Like, you know, when you read a book and you start
Yeah.
visualizing what's going on. Like if you
Mhm.
read a book and in your brain is making, by what you're reading, you're visualizing this. I almost felt like that's what I felt when I watched Ends. And then I'm like thinking, has anybody ever asked the question if like this was Lori's memoirs that she was typing at the beginning? Like, is this the story that she's trying to tell through that? Nobody's really brought that part up, but
Huh.
it's like, though, it was so bizarre the way it was laid out that I almost felt like, were they going for that kind of like a story that she was telling? Nobody's ever said that, but all in all, I liked Ends. I just feel like it is definitely a bizarre movie, but I enjoyed it. I think that I really liked the story. I kind of wish to keep this damn thing moving, they should have just had Corey kind of take the reins and just go off on the
Mhm.
side story with him and the other girl and just kind of redo this whole Halloween story with them two as like the new crew. But I don't know if that would have went well. But at this point, it's like, what are we gonna do? Redo it again and have like another Laurie and Michael? Are we just gonna do the same thing over and over again forever?
Mhm.
Like, is that the plan, or can we keep it moving forward?
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about it as like the story because I love Ends. It's probably top 3 Halloween films for me. Like as a movie, it's really good, but you're totally right. For the end of a trilogy, it's just like, wait, what? We're going from this main story and now we've got this other person, but somehow this is supposed to be the end of it all. It doesn't
Mhm.
make sense. And I wrestle back and forth with if Corey should have lived on because you're right. It's like basically passing the torch. Would that fly with Halloween fans? I really honestly don't
Probably
know.
not, but again, I don't know
Yeah,
where, at the same time, people don't wanna see Jamie Lee anymore either. They're kinda sick of her, so it's like, but where do they want this to go? And
right.
I think that, they coulda used these 2 younger characters and kinda started the whole thing up and took this story somewhere else. And yeah, next time you watch the movie, just kind of pay attention to the way it kind of moves. And somebody said in the chat here that they noticed that like the way people show up, it's just kind of too quick and random. Like, how are they there? Now they're here. Like, it just feels to me
Mhm.
like I'm reading chapters of a book on screen, which is a different way to kind of look at the story.
That is a really good point. I didn't even think about that. I guess I just didn't pay attention in that way, but if you look at it as a story, people just randomly popping up, that would be
Yeah.
pretty off-putting.
And I like the character of Corey, but I just don't understand how you bring in such a strong character and then he's by the end of the movie, he's gone. Like, that's what's
Yeah.
weird to me, because I think he was a great character, but you tell his story in one movie and that was it. Like, he comes and goes. That's why I would love to just find out like how this was decided to just take this very different route. Um, I don't know. It's still very interesting to me, but overall, I'm a fan.
Likewise, likewise. All right, I'm gonna check some of the comments here. Hi, Steven. I still buy physical media. For instance, I'm buying the Dylan's New Nightmare on Blu-ray. Me too. Thanks for supporting that fan film, making its way home. Of course, Never Hike Alone 2 is coming out this Friday. I'm very excited for that. Garrett, you
I
think you
have
might watch it?
yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I have the first one and I have the snow one, so I just
Oh
haven't seen
yeah.
whatever's new. Whatever's new is I haven't checked it out yet.
Looking forward to that. Do a great job. Cinematic said, I prefer physical media with streaming to supplement. Yeah,
Mm.
I could definitely see that. 4K on a disc is far better than 4K on streaming due to bandwidth and internet speeds being capped. Yeah, sometimes we have some serious issues. And sometimes even I watched Robert's documentary on the steel Blu-ray that I have and then on the TV, and just it was grainier on the TV than it was on my Blu-ray. So sometimes that high quality can create issues when you're streaming. Andy said, I don't think it's about recreation referencing nostalgia. It's important to combine nostalgia with the modern time instead of bringing back Blockbuster, make a modern version without the name. Yeah, I think you're basically on the money with like what Garrett said about, combining everything and making it ma and pop. I think that that would be really, really interesting. And someone else had made the comment, basically agreeing with all of us, that they want to keep these IPs alive that started in the 80s and 90s by targeting the parents. And then it kind of trickles down into the younger generation because we'll be like, oh, I watched this when I was a kid. Here you go. You
Mhm.
watch this. My mom would tell me, she watched the Carol Burnett show and Bewitched and stuff like that. But even now that it's streaming or it's popular, she's not like, here, I bought this for you to watch to pass it down. But
Sure.
our generations are a little bit different. So it's kind of being filtered down through us, which I think is very, very interesting.
I mean, I think our generation is an important one because that the only way to keep anything alive is to introduce it to someone younger, because then they can kind of
Mhm.
do the same. Because and when people come to me and they're like, hey, I just want to let you know I love your content, I love these, I'm really getting into horror, blah blah blah, and then you come to find out that they're like 16, 17 years old. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want someone like young, but to me it's important because those are the people that you want to keep this alive with, because I had my uncle that did it with me, so he was the one that kind of kept this alive for me. And even before I started YouTube, there were people I was searching out on like different things. On like, hey, maybe there's some horror movies that I haven't seen yet, and this person can tell me something they like, and then I'll go and search it out and buy. So I think having the YouTube is important because we're finding people that might have interest in a lot of this stuff, and we're kind of keeping that alive for them. And because when people stop talking about something, it just goes away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like Freddy and Freddy versus Jason. You
it's
hide
it's
him and
true.
then he disappears until someone mentions him, and then it infects an entire town again.
Right. I mean, that's like even
Yeah.
Freddie now. Like, I mean, as much as people don't want to see new stuff, I mean, we need to, because we need to get the younger generation involved, in this kind of stuff, and even putting out
Mhm.
a new box set, do these things to kind of keep him relevant to the younger audience that might not know who that is. There's a lot of
That
people
was
out there right now that the Rob Zombie Halloween is their Halloween, right? Because
yeah.
that's where that was the age that they were in. So
Even when the new Nightmare remake came out, there were just a flood of people even younger than me at that time who really liked it. And there are some people, I mean, they didn't even know, the younger generations didn't even know it was a remake of anything. I
right.
think growing up when I had some of those early remakes, I didn't even know that John Carpenter's The Thing was a remake. I had no idea. I thought that was just the original. It wasn't until later that I learned that there were ones before it. So it's
Mhm.
got to be true about the younger generations. Don't fall asleep on DVD. You
Is
don't
that the
want
one
that.
you were
You
in?
don't want
Is that
that
the one you were?
quality.
Is that
Yeah.
the one you were in? Oh yeah.
I have that on DVD. I
Do you
really
really?
do, but we never put it out back back then.
It's on YouTube.
Yes, welcome buddy. Nice to see you here.
What's going on?
Yeah, hey Cody, 10 years, the younger generation might be going to conventions to meet content creators, not actors. I
Hey,
had this interesting theory, Cody, that what it was like a vision one night when I was super tired. And I'm like, how today we have streaming and TVD, TV and movie and things like that. And that's like the main thing. And then I guess, actors might go on social media. But what if down the line, social media becomes our main like form of consumption
hey,
and
it
YouTube,
probably will.
right? And we constantly go to TikTok or whatever, YouTube, and that becomes what everybody watches instead of streaming. And then those people are so popular, then they end up being cast. I mean, there's a little bit of it now in like movies and TV shows because those are our A-list celebrities. Those are our actors and actresses, whatever talent, or those influencers and content creators. And it kind of goes in the opposite
I
way.
think
And it's
100%
kind of starting now.
that is a possibility easily, because I've seen it happen already in small doses, right? But that's where a lot of these people are watching their content. Like, there's plenty of people that if there's a show at 8 o'clock on YouTube, and then like if you go on at 8 and I go on at 10, like there's plenty of people out there like a Cody who might watch you from 8 to 10 and then watch me from 10 to 12, right? Like that. There's plenty of people out there that do that. Because I see it, they'll
Mhm.
bounce from like different chats or whatever, and that's their like Thursday night or whatever. Where my Thursday night was Seinfeld and something else, like, and Friends. Like, their Thursday night was like Sassy and Rad. Like, that was their Thursday night, right? Like, it, I think that there's a lot to be said with that. And I talked about this before. Just went to a convention recently, and I've been going for a while, and I saw that the Dead Meat crew were there as like guests,
Yeah.
right? Like, they were like they're the YouTube guests or whatever. And I thought for sure, I was like, okay, like, there's not many people I want to meet. I said, I'll probably go up to them and just say hi, just to say hi to them or whatever. So they know that I exist, kind of thing. Just to say, I appreciate what they've done for, the YouTube, and how they've been able to kind of make this a career. Like, it's just very interesting to kind of see how they made it all work. And now they've got a table at a convention. Like, it's just a really cool concept. So I was like, you know what? I'll go there. I'll walk around. I'll see who's out there. I'll pop by their table, say what's up. And then that's it. Like, that was my game plan, really. And then I saw Sean Clark, so I hung with him for a bit. And all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm going to go say what's up to these guys. And I looked, and literally their line was around the whole room. And then you have people sitting there from Halloween movies and Friday 13th movies and, Weekend at Bernie's, and all these celebrities are sitting around there, and they might have two people in line, and this dead meat crew had like people all the way around, and I'm like, I can't even believe this. Like, I can't even go up to say hi to them. They're going to be signing for like an hour. It was
Yeah.
wild to me because I thought for sure they would just be sitting there with like one or two people every now and then popping over to them. Never in a million years did I think that it was going to be a line like that. Like, they were probably in that room that they were in, they had the longest line without question.
I
So when you say
Yeah.
that, I think that that is definitely something that could happen.
It's definitely, I totally agree. It's definitely starting because you're right. I have not seen dead meat at a con that I've been to, and I would love to go up to them. They were supposed to be at Joe Bob's Jamboree, but I think James had a migraine, so he couldn't make it. But I saw videos of their line at Midsummer Scream, and it was just so huge for dead
Mhm.
meat. And Grim Life is going around to a bunch of cons, and
Sure.
they've got lines. And now I'm seeing more TikTok influencers and things like that, and different aspects of the horror community getting invited to these things. And cosplayers for general comic cons and things like that have been going for a while. Some of them didn't really have a lot of long lines, but now I'm seeing them invited to horror cons, which is really, really cool to see, because I know that there's just a lot of people that I watch every day that I would love to meet. Like, I'd love to see Bailey Sarian at a con. I
Mhm.
love her dark history and murder
I
mystery
really
and
think
makeup.
that we're gonna see more of that because, again, they're not horror movies of the now are not like they were back then, right? So what happens when all these celebrities start passing? Like, when you go to
Mhm.
conventions, most of the celebrities that are there representing these horror movies are well into their probably they're older than 50, right? They're
Mm.
older, like they're a lot of them are a lot older now because these movies that everybody's going to see that have this nostalgia are mostly like 70s, 80s movies. So what happens in 20 years where, we haven't created these, new stars or these people that the younger generation has grown to really love, like, side characters from the Halloween movies. Like, it's not the same. So they're gonna, if they want to keep these things alive, like, they've got to have some kind of plan. And I think that, we may see a little bit more of that kind of stuff.
I think I totally agree with you, Garrett. And it's like Jiggy Sawgirl, who is a huge TikToker now. She just passed 1 million. Well, she does this talk about Saw, but she got to be in the new Saw movie as the barista who serves John Kramer. Like, what a great
Right.
moment. You know, that's
Mhm.
like one of those things that we might start to see more of, is movies taking advantage of fans, even if it's just a cameo to put them in a movie. Hey, out there, Craven Estate, to hit up with a Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm going to
For
say it till
sure.
the day I die.
For sure.
But even this comment, Sean Clark is a celebrity in my
Mhm.
eyes. Me too. People that I've seen and follow online, I look at them as being celebrities. And for the longest time, people would say, a cosplayer or this, that, and the other thing isn't a celebrity. They're just, but it's like a different type of celebrity. Celebrity isn't just movies and TV now. It's so much more than that. And I definitely see that continuing to grow. Cinematic said Bailey Sarian is a channel my wife got me into because she knew her balance of humor with the content would be down my alley. Yes, whenever she talks about nay nay no, I like to think that I have a little Bailey in me. I love Bailey Sarian. She's wonderful. She's super, super wonderful. But Garrett, I actually have a couple of games for you. Would you
Ooh.
like to play a game?
Let's do it. Let's play.
All right.
Let's
So the
play.
first so the first game we have up is a lightning round.
Oh boy.
I'm going to give you some this or that's, and you have to say what first comes to mind. And then there are a couple of questions in there for you to also respond as quickly as possible. Are you ready?
Sure. Yeah, let's go.
All right. Early mornings or late nights?
Oh god, late nights.
E.T. or Ghostbusters?
Ghostbusters.
Pac-Man or Donkey Kong?
Oof. Donkey Kong.
Ooh. Ferris Bueller's Day Off or Back to the Future?
Back to the Future.
Top Gun or Risky Business?
Oof. Uh, I'll say Top Gun.
Oh, I love
It
Top
was close.
Gun. Did you like Maverick?
I did like Maverick. I thought it was actually really good. I thought it was a good movie.
I'm there with you. All right, cool. Indiana Jones or Han Solo? The Battle of the Fords.
I'm gonna give you. If you guys watch my channel, you might think this is funny. If you don't watch it, then you probably don't think this is funny. But as much as the '80s is something that I absolutely love, I have never seen Indiana Jones, any Indiana Jones movies ever. So I'm gonna have to say Han Solo. And it's almost got to a point where it's so pathetic that like I've made it a point to just like see how long I can keep this going now. Like I just bought them all in 4K with the idea of like, okay, the time's coming soon. The time's coming soon. And I've got them and I'm like, my brother hasn't seen them either. For some reason, it's like it never made it into our house when we grew up during that era. Like I went to Disney. I remember going on like the rides and the stage shows and all that, but I don't know why it never translated into the movie. But I think maybe next year we're going to do, my brother and I will watch them and do like first time watch videos just because it's kind of pathetic at this point that I've never seen it. But if I can use it as content at this point, I'm going to use it as content.
Garrett, it was not until last year or 2 years ago, Jason, you have to keep me honest, I did not see any of the Indiana Joneses. He showed them all to me, and now I understand who Indiana Jones really is. So I'm there with you. I also have never seen the Psycho movies, not one of them. So
you're gonna like those a lot.
One of
my
things. That's what I've heard.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be really disappointed if I don't like any of them.
No, I think you will. I really do.
Oh, well, shucks. All right. Let's continue with the major questions. Nintendo or Sega?
Oof. Oh. That's tough. I'll say Nintendo. Oh. That was a tough one. I did jump ship to Sega though. I went when it was that time to like went from Nintendo and then I had a choice. My mom said, you get Super Nintendo or Sega, which route are you going? We chose Sega. And my brother said it was the biggest mistake we ever made, but I liked Sega. So I don't know. I'd say Nintendo overall because Sega kind of died after Genesis, really.
Fair. Totally fair. I just played whatever. So I'm going with your answer. Coke or Pepsi?
Shit. I don't drink them. So let's see. I can remember. I'll say Pepsi just because it brought the crystal clear Pepsi in. And that was my favorite when I was a kid.
Fair. They also had Britney Spears. See, I have a trend here. Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was like my favorite show growing up.
Who is your favorite horror character of all time?
Ooh. Damn. I would have to say probably David from the Lost Boys, I would say.
Ooh, good choice. Oh, nice. I was just looking at some Lost Boys stuff today. Wow, that is a really good answer. That's super interesting. If you don't mind me asking why. I know you love the Lost Boys.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite horror movie of all time. And I just think he was just such a cool character. Like, I mean, man, I want to dress like that now. You know what I mean? Like, I want that haircut. I want that outfit, So
what's stopping you, Garrett? Go for
it. Slowly. I'm slowly getting there. Step by step. I get the dangly earring now. So, I mean, we're step by step in it at that point.
All right. He's transforming slowly but surely. What movie or franchise do you think deserves a major box set or individual release?
Oh God, it's got to be Elm Street.
No question. Thank you.
It's got to be. I mean, it's the only one that hasn't had like a really nice edition. Like as much as the Halloween and the Halloween is on 4K now, but Friday 13th doesn't have 4Ks and stuff. I mean, those editions that they came out with to me are still iconic editions that Scream Factory did. So to have Elm Street, I don't know what the problem is really. I mean, I guess there's just rights issues. I'm sure you know more of the problems than I do, but I don't know how this isn't happening. And I'm hoping that whoever does it right, because that last set that they put out was it wasn't right.
That's like why I didn't get it.
And if they try to do it again that way, like, I don't know, like that's what I'm worried about. Like if the studio tries to be like, we'll do it, but you got to do it. You can't just give us like a box and say they're all here. Look at like it needs the treatment that these other ones got, like these nice box sets. And, I would say as much as I have my issues with Scream Factory, I would say give it to them and just say mimic the damn Friday 13th one.
That one was beautiful.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. Great new artwork, all kinds of stuff involved. Yeah, I totally that 99 DVD box set. That's why I mean, they had that Blu-ray one, but I looked at the cover, I looked at all the different things that people had issues with, and I said, it's not worth it. So I'm just
Mhm.
gonna stick with this because I love it. Still looks great. They might be a little worn down, but hey, you know what?
No, that's the best
If
Elm
it
Street set
works,
I think that they've ever had. That, and they did a really
totally
nice
agree.
VHS set with him with
Yeah.
him on it or whatever. Yeah.
I think it's
Oh,
I
I see
hold
it right
on.
there. Yeah, under
Hold
your
on.
armpit.
There it is.
I see it.
I
I see it.
never
Oh
know
yeah.
whenever the
That's
hands are
the
going.
that's the classic.
Yeah, I totally agree, but I'm right with you there, Garrett. I figured that would be your answer, but I just had to be sure. Okay. Manifesting. Last question. Picture yourself in 5 years. What is Garrett doing? What does Garrett's life look like?
Man,
Feel
I
like a
don't know.
bomb.
I don't know, sitting at one of those convention tables or hosting panels at conventions, with the podcast or whatever. That's what I could see. Do I look at this as like, could this be my full-time career? I don't, but at the same time, I want to keep myself to a level where opportunities could arise for different things. Like I know me and you have talked about it before. Like, for instance, like whatever you did with Fangoria, where you worked their table for a convention, like that's cool to me, right? Like, or maybe a company like that wants a host for some kind of online show, and they like these are just different things that I would be like, if someone came across my channel, they could say, okay, well, this person could be someone we're interested in this to represent this. And that's why I try to keep myself to a certain set of standards just to see, if there are opportunities that could
Mhm.
arise. Like I it's so funny because I've always felt like I've belonged in some kind of media type situation. Like, um, so I was almost on the Real World in 2000. I don't know, whatever one Key West was the one that I was
Holy
almost on.
moly.
So like there was always that I went through a phase where it was like I was trying to get on reality TV and going to auditions and doing this, that, and this. Like that was a phase of mine. And yeah, I was top 20 to be on Key West. Didn't happen. Then I did professional wrestling for a while, and that didn't end up happening. Because life got in the way and I should have went back. But I just always felt like I feel very comfortable, like in that kind of situation. I always felt like I could see myself doing something, with some kind of like media format, but it's just never really, this is the closest I've ever done to that, besides just auditions and stuff like that. But I mean, I again, I don't see myself there in 5 years, but I think at the same time, if I was given the opportunity, I think I would do well in those situations.
I think you would have. Has anybody ever reached out to you and been like, "We'd love to have you a part of this"? Because you even
No.
like if like Vinegar Syndrome or, TerraVision or something, because I feel like that's your realm, and if they wanna have a personality online, I feel like you would be the perfect person because of how invested you are in a lot of the things that they represent, and I feel like you would be a terrific online personality for them or whomever. you
Oh, I
know
appreciate that.
I think that I think you have that charisma and that confidence and the knowledge where you would absolutely excel. So
No,
like
thank you. I mean,
who'd be somebody that you would really like to work for?
uh I don't know, like, I mean, I even think of someone like a Fangoria or something of name value of something like that. Even if they said, "Hey, would you come to this event and you have a vendor badge and we need you to walk around and interview X, Y, and Z or whatever." Like those are the type of things that I feel like would be pretty cool. Like almost just to be some kind of like have a press pass of some kind, like starting there. Or hey, if a convention says, hey, we saw the podcast and would you guys want to come down, we'll pay for you to come down to Monster Mania and host a panel with this group. Like that's the kind of thing that I feel like I would like to do, where um I could be a host or something along those lines. I just think that that's where I feel comfortable. Even though I've never done it, but I just feel like it would come relatively easy for me. Like even with fitness, I did a lot of like TV spots and I did commercials like talking about fitness tips and whatnot, and was on like morning shows doing fitness stuff. And you can find all that on YouTube. But that was all before I had a channel. But I mean, again, I didn't have any issues with being in front of cameras or anything like that. So I do feel like deep down, like that's something that I feel something I've always wanted to do. But the avenue to get there has always just kind of been like, being in Rhode Island, where am I going to go from here? But hey, you never know. It's a crazy world out there in the horror community. So anything can happen.
I'm pulling for you, Garrett. I feel like even if you started, like, do you like to write? Do you like to write, or does it bring you stress?
I've written and people have said it's good, but it brings me so much stress. Like
I'm
it
the
really
same
does.
way.
Like even and I don't know, I'm sure you guys do it for some of your episodes. Like Justin was like, "Oh, you know what? I'd love the guy that I do he's part of the Rad Pack and podcast, and he's like, I would love to see you do videos where like you write out something and do almost like a video essay on like a could be like, again, I was going to do the Exorcist history of physical media for the Exorcist and talk about like each release it's ever gotten and do almost like a video essay. But the idea of writing something out like stresses me out so much. Like I feel more comfortable going on live and just doing it like winging it. Like I feel way more comfortable that way than if I was to sit back and try to write it out and script it. Like I just don't know if I could. I would rather just throw that paper away and just say, just tell me when to go. And I feel like I'd feel better that way.
I would love to see this. I feel like Garrett could find the coolest places on earth, and they'd send him, and he'd be like, "Whoa,
that would be sick, to be honest, because I've been like nowhere. So everywhere would be the raddest place for me on earth, basically, because I've never.
Come to Vegas. We'll do the first episode.
I've never been to Vegas. I would be like, what is this place? I went to New York City for the first time at 24 for an audition for The Real World, and I didn't know. I thought I was in like Back to the Future too. Like I didn't know what the heck was going on with all the billboards and the lights. I was like, what is this place? So it is. It's crazy.
Garrett be like a kid in a candy store. He'd be like, whoa, but that's part of the magic. And then you could be like, is it as rad as I thought it would be?
Sure.
I don't know. Oh man. Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, I am right there with you. Writing, I hate it. The idea of organizing and then having to make it flow, because we write all of our Snacks and Screams episodes, and like I've had to write pieces online, and I can't do it. It's wonderful once it's done because you know where it's going. You could put more jokes in that maybe you didn't think of on the fly, but
sure.
Yeah, the process is just
I mean, it comes out great, but I can understand why it's time consuming, right? It takes a while to finalize everything because again, it must feel like you're back in school doing homework again. And like, you have to sit down and be like, okay, I got to start writing. And then it becomes stressful. I can only imagine. I've never written anything I've ever done, like on YouTube or anything like that. It just stresses me out.
You're really good at the off the fly stuff though. For me, I have to have some kind of bullet points or I'm going to.
You're doing perfectly fine right now, kiddo.
Thank you. I actually have this all written out. I expected you to say everything that you're saying right now.
Jason got cue cards. He's getting the new.
He does.
Yeah.
Stop. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, Cody.
No, but when it comes back to what I said about hosting and stuff, like if anybody that I know, I feel would be in the same boat would be you. Like either, I don't know if that's what you like, things like that. You'd love to do that, but I feel like you could do that. It would make sense.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It would be so much fun. Like I just like going and entertaining and showing people things. I love to make documentaries. I try to think of myself because, they say set your goals and then you can kind of backtrack from there. And I'm like, who am I? I like to think that I'm an Anthony Bourdain or a documentarian of some kind. I love food. I love seeing places. I love meeting people because everybody's story is so interesting. So I always love to talk about people's stories or showing a different side of them than normal. Also, Cody says Vegas isn't G-rated though, Garrett.
Yeah, I know.
But when he shows up, it will be.
Oh my God. 25-year-old Garrett is very different than this one right here. So Vegas would have been great for me in my 20s. I'll tell you that much.
I moved here and I'm not at all a gambler. I am not. I go downtown and I'm like,
But how about
Yeah.
even like at this point in your life, are you someone that's going to go down and just like club hop and party hard until all hours of the night, or no?
I love dancing, so I would go down, and I think my problem would be I like to try things. So if there's a fancy drink that involves like dry ice or some kind of statue involves something fancy, I'd try that. But I like to dance. I just like to, go down and dance. Just don't touch me. I want to make new friends and dance. I don't know if that's how they work because I've never been to one of their clubs, but I just
Sure.
want to,
Oh,
put on the Macarena.
I was big
They
into the
won't,
club
though.
scene through my 20s. So, but it's like I haven't been in forever. But I mean, it's one of those things. If I was to go to Vegas and go, I would need to just be with the right group of people, and it would be rocking. So,
Garrett, I'm just saying there's a great place called Las Vegas with somebody who's also willing to explore. We'll find out.
Is Jason just gonna be walking around like with cameras
following
us around?
Jason, listen, on certain nights I am awake. For this, I would be. For this, I would be. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the wax museum. That'd be weird. We could go to that.
That's cool.
We could go dancing and then go to the wax museum.
What
a day.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right,
I mean,
last
again,
question.
I'm definitely interested.
Oh, yeah.
What's it?
Well, the invite is always open. We have an extra bedroom. Whatever.
I know we are trying to organize we made a pact that with the Rad Pack that every year we try to do a meetup somewhere, and we've been talking last night on a show that we did, and we're like we've got to do the Lost Boys thing. Like we have to go to Santa Cruz. And again, if it becomes like kind of like a road trip type thing or whatever, then it does. I mean, like you said, 4 hours is not that bad when you really think about it.
Yeah, it's not bad. And it goes by fast, especially when you're with friends. It's a lot of desert, but there's little treasures along the way. Last question is, what is your most prized piece of physical media that you own?
Oh, physical media.
As of right now.
What could it be? I mean, I wouldn't say it's looking around.
Even just favorite.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I could say prized could be I do have a Lost Boys DVD signed by Corey Haim, which I think is pretty
That's pretty cool.
I don't know actually what would be my favorite piece of physical media that I have. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking around the room right now and seeing if I can see anything stick out. There's some cool Dawn of the Dead sets that Second Sight did. I don't know if that's my favorite. I mean, I still think that the Halloween set and the Friday 13th set that Shout Factory, Scream Factory did is one of my favorites, absolutely. And some of the old stuff too. Like I just showcased this cool locker set that from the movie Heathers that Anchor Bay did back in the day.
Yeah.
There was so many cool things that came out back then that you'll just never see. Like again, like that Elm Street box is just something that's just so iconic. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure. Probably like from a sentimental standpoint, I'd have to say that Lost Boys signed DVD by Haim.
That's cool. I think that is really cool. When you guys go out there to visit the locations, are you going to dress up?
We could dress up.
You wear a trench coat?
I've got plenty of them. Yeah, I've got some. I mean, for years I was trying to find that damn jacket that Corey Haim wears in the comic book store. So I have like multiples of like it kind of looks like it. So I mean, I've got things to wear for sure.
That'd be cool. I'd come. I'd tag along. I'd be star.
Definitely.
Oh, perfect. Now I have another game for you. Since we've talked a lot about nostalgia, called Flashback. Ooh, I almost called this Flash Dance Back, but I decided against that. Thanks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flash iconic things from the 80s and 90s, and you let me know if you have a tie to it, a funny story, maybe you weren't involved, whatever it is. We're getting to know you, Garrett.
Let's do
nostalgia style. All right, here we go. First thing.
Ecto. Oh God, Ecto Cool. I remember having that as a kid in my lunches in elementary school, and I still got some. So I still have some that I have saved, just because it's such another iconic thing that you just don't see anymore. And when they do it, it's just a throwback. It's not readily available anymore. Which, again, it was just I love gimmicks, you know what I mean? So you throw a high C mashed up with Ghostbusters and call it something cool like Ecto Cooler, and I think it's a win-win.
Oh, yeah. Did you get it when it came back out?
Oh
Is
yeah.
that what you have on your shelf, or do you have the
I've
OGs?
got I've got one OG, I've got a whatever 12 pack or 9 pack of the car whatever the juice boxes that they just came out with a couple years ago. I have a they did them in cans. I have some of those as well.
Oh,
And I
that's
think that
cool.
came out a couple years ago as well. But yeah.
That was good. I had never had it until a couple years ago, and I was like, "This is what it tasted like," and I was hoping so. I hoped it
Nice.
was accurate.
Oh yeah, you gotta have those.
It's awesome stuff. All right, next one. MTV. Were you allowed to watch MTV? Did you watch MTV?
I watched MTV. I wasn't allowed to watch Beavis and Butthead, so that was kind of one of those things that I had to kind of hide and watch like when
Same.
nobody was home or whatever. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, I was watching MTV all the time. I mean, even through again, I know we're kind of a little bit different in age, but
Mhm.
even during the era of like TRL, like I was still watching it heavy then. And all the stuff earlier too. So yeah, loved it. I found a lot of bands back in the day on MTV. I used to watch it late at night where they'd show like a lot of like heavy metal stuff that like you couldn't see during the day. And I remember
Oh,
local
yeah.
like finding so many cool bands out. I don't know what they would call it. It was must have been a name of that show, but yeah, I found a lot of cool bands out there.
Oh, they were cool. You're right. I now how do you discover new music now?
I don't it's pretty pathetic. I know nothing about new music. Like again, I like synthwave too now, so, like, I'll follow that a little bit. As far as, like, what's out there for, like, heavy metal now, I only know things like the newest bands that I know that are still putting out albums are, like, Motionless in White. Ice Nine Kills is probably, like, the
Mhm.
newest band, most current, band that I listen to, but, I mean, I've really been listening to them since maybe, like, I don't know, 2015 or something like that. So I mean, it's still been
Oh,
a
damn.
while because like they were a
Mhm.
band before they became like the horror band. They were a band for years. So to me, they don't feel new, but I know that they're more or less current because they've really caught their stride in the last couple of years. But as far as anything new when it comes to rock or metal bands, I have no idea. When it comes to things like pop and hip hop, I really have no idea. I hear things on the radio, but even still, like, I'm trying to think who's big now. People tell me people all the time, and I'm like, I don't know who that is, and then they're like, "What? How do you know who that is?" Uh, I don't know. If you name a pop star now, I probably wouldn't even know them if they walked in the room. I've just recently, like, I know who Taylor Swift is, but like,
Yeah.
other than like over the last couple months, like, I knew of her, but I didn't really know her. Like, if
I
she
think
walked
it's
in a
because they
room, I probably
cycle
couldn't have picked her
people.
out. That's how
Yeah.
crazy it is. Like, I'm in like a crazy weird bubble that I really don't know much of anybody now.
But I don't blame you because I see new artists popping up all the time, and there's like a new rapper all the time. And I feel like it goes in almost 2-year intervals when somebody's really hot right now, and then they introduce somebody new, and that person's really hot, and maybe they collaborate with the other person, then that other
Mhm.
person, like, I was mostly thinking about like Nicki Minaj and then going to Cardi and then going to Megan Thee Stallion and then going to Ice Spice, and then there's some other people
I don't
now,
even
and
know who
I
any of
don't
those
know who
people
they
are except
are.
Nicki Minaj.
Yeah,
I know Nicki, and that the
they
rest of those people I have no I mean, I've heard of the name Cardi B, but I couldn't pick her out if she was standing here. I don't know any of
yeah,
her
it
music,
it just
and
feels like they
I don't
just
know I've
go
never
so
even heard of the other
quickly.
people you mentioned, but I don't know where you even listen to it anymore because, again,
Yeah.
when I'm in my car is the only time I could probably listen to it, and I work out, I could listen to it. I'm listening to old albums, but when I'm in my car, it's mostly podcasts or I listen to YouTube shows that maybe I can't watch on a regular because I just don't have a type of job where I can do that stuff while I'm at work. So like
Mhm.
my only time to really get these things in is like on car rides or then maybe if I get home and before I go to bed or something like that. So there's really not a lot of places and time that I would listen to music unless I'm working out, which is usually like I'll throw on just like some of my favorite albums or whatever. Like I don't really search out anything current. I don't know where you'd find it unless you were really just
It's
in the
hard.
mix.
It really is hard. If there's anything, I think I found it through TikTok, through going through that, but other than that,
Mhm.
yeah, I just kind of I'm a creature of habit. All right, Fraggle Rock. Do you have any
Oh,
memories of Fraggle Rock?
of course. Fraggle Rock was a show that I used to watch all the time as a kid. It goes back to the McDonald's toys. They had these Fraggle Rock McDonald's toys that were so sick. They came in like these little carrot cars and cars of different vegetables. It was awesome. Love Fraggles.
Dope. Oh, thank you, Foz. Would appreciate that. Yes, please send me your new recommendations. That is how I hear
sure.
people.
I really don't know. Oh, Garbage Pail Kids. Love them. Love them. So I collected those as a kid. Doritos. Oh, what was that one? Not Cool
Cool
Ranch,
Ranch
was it? Oh, Cool
Doritos.
Ranch, the old school bag.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do
heck
you
yeah, I
like
remember
Cool
when those came
Ranch?
out. I do. Yeah, yeah, I like those. I remember when they first came out. Well, again, they seemed, unless they were out and then they came out again, but when I was a kid, I remember it was like a big hype for them to come out and as like the new big thing. So I could be wrong. Did they like start in the 80s, maybe late 80s, or were they out and then they came back for a run? I have no idea, but
So in my 8th grade year, it was in high school. I had an 80s themed birthday Halloween party, and I did some research, and it said that Cool Ranch came out in the 80s. I don't know if they went away and then came back. I just know that they came out in the 80s
okay, so that's
because
probably
I've
what I
always
remember.
loved Cool Ranch. They've always been my favorite. So I
Yeah,
don't know
so
if they had like a resurgence, but I just feel like they've always been there since the
yeah, they've
80s.
really like I feel like all these companies come out with like a lot of different flavors all the time, but nothing's really hung
Yeah.
around as long as something like Cool Ranch could have been a come and go type of thing. When you really think about it, that could have been like just a fad and it's something we all remember, but it just never came up. But it obviously took off because I mean it's still prevalent. Like you can still go to the store and get them.
I am always wanting to pick up a Cool Ranch. 1986 Cool Ranch Doritos. Man,
You're showing my age here, man. I'm feeling old
holy
now.
cow. Dude, when they made A Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984, they didn't have Cool Ranch Doritos. What a
That's crazy,
bummer.
right?
I think about that. Do you ever watch movies or shows and be like, this happened at this time and they didn't live with this? Like when I watch movies before 1984, I immediately go, they didn't know who Freddy Krueger was right now. They
It
lived in
is
a world
wild,
without
right?
Freddy Krueger. Yeah.
And then those people that
So
created him, when Wes created him, it was kind of like they never would have realized how much of an icon that would. He could have been another come and
yeah.
go type of thing. And that's why I always am curious why they don't give enough of these one-off slashers more chances and do sequels and just see what happens. Like case in point, like I always use the Brain Scan as such a movie that I love, and I'm like, wow, that character Trickster could have really been a pretty cool villain if they would have kept this going. But it was just kind of a one and done type of thing, and it was weird because he was just such a unique and character that I'm surprised they didn't try to run with it. And you see back here, Shocker is another poster I have right here.
Mhm.
They said that Wes kind of hoped that could be his next Freddy, but there was no sequel to this movie. So what could have been? I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder. I wonder if maybe that's why Art the Clown is taking off more because even though we've had some new slashers, Art is the one who's getting sequels, or if maybe he's getting more sequels because people just really liked him. But even when All Hallows Eve came out and he was a part of that
Mhm,
anthology, I feel like
mhm.
nobody really talked about him
No,
until Terrifier came out.
that's
So
true. Yeah, I remember I had that
interesting.
DVD for so long, and nobody ever. I just thought it was just a random Walmart DVD with him on the cover, All Hallows Eve, and not realizing. I remember when Terrify came out, I'm like, wait, is this the same guy that was in that other random movie a couple of years ago? But yeah, they've made it work, which is great.
Yeah. Such an interesting thing to happen today. Love that whole journey. Waterbeds. Do you have a
My gr
waterbed? Did you ever
I did
sleep on a
not.
waterbed?
I've slept on one. My grandmother had one, not I. We didn't have one in our house. My grandmother did. I used to think it was like the coolest thing ever.
Whoa,
That
whoa,
could be
whoa,
something that's
whoa,
coming
whoa.
back. Do those still exist?
I actually, when I
You
was
guys don't have
Googling
one?
waterbed pictures, no, we don't. I would love one. And then I'd watch MTV and then put that poster up and I'd listen to, Billy Idol and pretend I'm Joey. That would be why I would get a waterbed. My
Well, you wouldn't get
parents had a
you wouldn't
waterbed
get a
like as like
waterbed for Elm Street purposes? You wouldn't do it
yeah,
for that?
no, that's why
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah,
get
of
it.
course, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
would totally, that would be the reason that I would get it. I just feel like it'd be such a hassle and I would accidentally poke a hole in it and it'd be
just put it on
water
the Christmas
everywhere.
list.
Mom and dad,
Waterbed this year,
everybody, I
please.
don't want anything but a waterbed for Christmas. Dude, the McNuggets came out in the 80s. Holy cow.
Wow. See, I didn't even know that. I
I
figured they've
didn't
been
know
out
that.
forever.
Dang. All right. Speaking of, did you ever have any cups like this
I
back
did.
in the day?
Yeah, those were funny too because I always felt like they were like it felt weird to hold those things as a kid. Like you used to just glass, and when it has all some of these prints on it, kind of had like a weird texture or whatever to it. But yeah, I had a lot of those growing up. I think like McDonald's ones I might have had, like
Yep.
different McDonald's characters and stuff on there. I don't have any now, I don't think. Oh, I do. I have like a Cobra Kai one that I think you can get at like Spencer or something like that. What other one do I have over
I used
there?
to have Disney ones from, I think, Burger King or something like that.
They used to do
My
those,
parents
yeah.
had them for the longest time. Dang. All right, does this bring up any memories?
Yeah, you know what? I don't of course, we used to draw between that and a cube, like, with the 2 things in, like, 3rd grade, everybody used to draw,
The
like, you'd be like, "Who
cube.
I could draw a cube," and then you would draw that thing, but I don't know what that was called. That wasn't Stussy logo. No, Stussy was, like, a different
I
brand, but I
I
don't
have
know, that
no
was something that
idea.
everybody used to tag all the time with that damn thing. You do the 3
That's
lines
what
in the
I
top and bottom and connect the S, yeah.
Jason, that's exactly what I thought. I thought it was just S. It's just
Is that
S.
just S?
I don't know. That's what
It
I
could
always just
be,
called
it
it. I
could
was
be.
just like, "Do you remember the S?"
I don't even know what you would I don't even know what we called that.
I guess we're gonna Google it. We're gonna have to
The
Google it.
S.
All right, what about Jinko jeans?
I cannot believe that those are coming back. I swore, like, after that era was over, which I was a part of, I looked back and said, "This fad will never come back." But at the
I felt the
time,
same way about mustaches.
I would have too. Um, they're back though. Jenkos are like they're by next year, they're gonna be really in, which is
Oh,
wild to
no.
me because it's just an interesting it's a it's weird. I mean, I remember as a kid, it was everything. Like, I used to laugh at my father because I used to be like, "You wear tight jeans," and like laugh at him and stuff because his jeans were too tight. Like, it was a huge thing. Like, we used to go
Yeah.
shopping for school shopping, and my mom's like, "Do you want these? You want these?" If I couldn't stick my head inside the leg of that thing, I wasn't buying them. Like, I used to literally try to put it over my head, and if it didn't fit, I'm like, "Nope, too tight." I would say.
Did they get
So
damp a lot on the bottom?
oh my
You
god,
always
yeah,
had
kids would be
wet
we'd be
wet
walking through school and
pants.
you'd have, like, the it would just keep going up and up and up as the day went on. Everybody's and, like, they were always shredded and they'd be ripped and stuff like that. Then you go to the
Oh,
store and you'd go to buy something and you'd have to, like, reach way down in your back pocket to get your wallet. Oh, yeah.
yeah. Holy
I'm
cow.
shocked that those are coming back.
When I was looking up pictures of Jinko jeans, I saw newer pictures and I was like, "No. No, they're not. Are they? Are they really?" And then you just confirmed, and I'm
Oh,
terrified.
they're
I will
definitely coming back.
never.
You're not gonna get the
All right.
Jenkos. Oh, Game
What
Boy.
about this?
Game Boy, of course. You know what though? I never owned it. I was always so upset that like it was one of those things where we had Nintendo. My mom was like, "You're playing enough. You're not playing in the car," or, like so I never was able to get it. And it's one of those things that I still don't own, but it's been on a list of things that like someday I just hope to get one because I have like a glass case with like different video game stuff in it, like the Power Glove and all that. And I'm like, I'd love to have
Oh,
like a Game
yeah.
Boy in there or something like that. So someday I'll
That'd
get
be
one.
sweet.
Hmm.
Do you remember when they came out with color? Because that was a big deal for me. I remember when they came out with color, and then I remember they had the flip one that had a light on it.
I do
And
remember that.
I remember playing that in the dark and being like, "This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I cannot
Yeah,
believe I get to play this in the dark."
that was a pretty cool effect, and that's where they were really big. Like, I almost feel like what I had was the one that you showed. Like, and I didn't have it, but that was like my era. But then they got
Mhm.
really popular, like as they started getting more into the color aspect. We had well, we didn't have it. My neighbor had it, but then Sega did theirs version, which was Game Gear, and that was color. So that was like a whole new thing because we were watching that damn green screen or whatever. And then when Game Gear came out, it was color. But like the Game Gear was like so powerful that it took like I think like 12 batteries that would only last like 8
Holy
hours. And you had to
cow.
like put them back in, and it was loud and all this stuff. So yeah, I never had either of those handheld things, but they were really, really cool. I'll see
Dang.
who's Jason just said the same thing. Game Gear.
I've never
5,000
even
batteries a
heard of
day.
Game Gear. Holy moly. I'm gonna
Oh my
have to
god, that's
look.
so funny that he said that.
That's
Yeah, it was
hilarious.
crazy.
All right, you've talked about McDonald's toys. Do any of
Oh,
these
yeah.
ring a bell?
Let
I
me look
remember
at these
those
a
chicken
second. Oh, the
nuggets.
chicken nuggets have definitely I still have, like, 1 or 2 of those. The Boo Buckets, oh, yeah, they're coming back,
Yeah.
so that's gonna be another
Yeah?
whole hunt. Were you part of the hunt last year when those came back or no?
No, I wasn't. I was like, I remember these, but I'm not as big of a fan where I'm gonna go out because I know I'm not gonna find them. Every time I go to look for something, I never find it. I've given up.
It's, you'd probably be able to find them. I mean, it was kind of a weird way they did it last year because it's like they released different ones in different states in different orders. So like I would be like, I'd go out and I'd be like, oh, I found the pumpkin, and I'd get two. And then someone online's like, oh, none of my places, they only had the witch. And then somebody from somewhere else is like, we only have the ghost. And then it would be like weeks before ours got the next one. Like they do them in waves, but in different areas. So like
Hmm.
people were trading them online, think that they would never find the different ones. So I say be patient with it. If it's the same way they're going to be doing it this year, it's just like everybody found them in time. It was just one of those things that it was
Like right away.
nerve-wracking at first because nobody
Yeah.
was finding the different ones, and you saw that, like, this dude over here has the ghost, so it's out there, but it seemed like they were not putting them in different areas, so it'll be interesting. I'll have to go out there and, try to get them this year again.
Yeah, let me know if you find them. Let
Yeah?
it document your journey because I
Yeah,
wanna know. I
I
wanna
I'm
know if
a
you have
I'm
to
a
punch anybody.
I'm a full-time fitness trainer doing a journey on my McDonald's visits of the month for the month of October. I've been to McDonald's
Viral,
16
going
times this
viral.
month. Yeah. My clients are like, "You told us we can't have
Handy.
McDonald's."
Yeah, I'd be like, "I'm coming, I'm just here for the blue buckets," you know? Your big
Throwing the food
muscles, you have
away.
to move.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
The one holds a lot of memories for me, but do you remember these?
Dude, yeah, what were they called?
I have
Those, like
no idea.
I do remember, like, a lot of those stuff. They had, like, Christmas ones, and they had, like, Halloween ones with
Yeah.
those, like, weird faces and stuff. These are the type of
Mhm.
things that I would love to find, like, at, like, a thrift store or something like that. These weird oddity type of items. Um, my grandmother had this thing, it was like a yodeler. It was super creepy if you look it up. I think the name of the brand was, like, Laughin' or something like that, and you can find them on eBay, and it was literally, like, the scariest thing ever. I always tease my brother that I'm gonna buy that for him for Christmas because it just to freak us out. It was like this yodeler head that was like really ugly looking, and it was on the wall, and you'd pull the tie and it would yodel and like it'd stick its tongue out and its eyes would roll back in its head. And it would squirt water up its mouth.
Weird.
I'm telling you, when we're done, I'll send you a link to one of those things and tell me that's not like the
Please.
creepiest thing ever. My grandmother used to have it in the house for
I'm
God knows what reason.
horrified already. I've
Dude,
never even heard
it's
of that.
crazy. If
Holy
anybody in the
cow.
chat knows what I'm talking about, look up Laughin'. It's like Laffin or something like that, and Yodeler Head. They have YouTube videos on it
Yodelerhead.
too. It's
Do you just
freaky.
fill it with water and then you just
Yeah,
get squirted?
and
Ew.
he yodels at you, and its tongue comes
How
out.
old
Yeah,
is that
it's wild.
water?
I don't know, but I mean, I even to this day, I still ask around, like, because my aunt owns my grandmother's house. I'm like, "Where's that damn Yodeler Head?" She's like, "It's got to be thrown away by now." I'm like, "Is it like hidden in the
You'll
attic? Like
find
I
it.
need it. I want it."
It'll be on the
Um,
news. They'll be like, "He died with the yodeler in hand." I'll be like,
but that's how bad nostalgia is like um, you remember these little things from your childhood, even, like, it could have been something she bought at, like, Walgreens for all I know back in, like, 1980, but for some reason, it means a lot to me, and we had this,
Mhm.
like, little, head of Santa that she used to have, and you'd press the nose, and it would, like, glow, and it would sing, like, different songs, and I found the damn thing on eBay, like,
Oh,
probably, like, 8 years ago, and I bought it and I hang it up down here, like, on Christmas and stuff just because it's just the nostalgia of something so random,
yeah.
this, like, weird ceramic Santa head that my grandmother had in the house as when we were kids during the Christmas time. It's just crazy the stuff that's out there that you can find because it's just kind of like a one in a million.
It is. There are so many things that I grew up with. So that witch, I remember seeing the vampire witch. By the way, for some reason, he looks like Nicolas Cage. Yeah, you just said it. Yes, he looks like Nicolas Cage. He does. I'm a vampire.
They knew
But
they
the
knew about that
witch,
Renfield way back then.
the witch, I named her Clarice when I was younger, and my mom had one, and every Halloween she'd put it out on the porch, and she would always, "Woo," and you could hear her down the street. And I always kept her in a separate room because she freaked me out when she would sing. And now I have her, and
Oh,
I
you
hold her
do?
close. I do, and I just love her so much. I have most of my Halloween decor is from my childhood that my mom has just given me. I have a blow mold ghost with a pumpkin that I really, really love. And some of those old, like these kinds of
Oh, yeah.
things,
Oh, yeah. They'd be
oh, they've
all over
got
the
so much
doors
tape
and
on the
stuff in the
back.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because, like, nowadays, like, nobody would really hang those in the house, unless they had nostalgia for it, but back
No.
then, it was like every door in my house had one of those things on it.
Yeah. I
Um,
freaking love those things.
isn't it crazy, though, that how strong nostalgia is? Because, like you said,
Yeah.
like, just the Halloween decorations that you grew up with that now you've taken and you're putting in your house, it gives you, like, a weird vibe, like, a special vibe,
Mhm.
really. Like, there's a couple things as well that I've either rebought that my mom had when I was a kid or something that I've like, I wanna take this, just because it just gives you that feeling of, like, what Halloween was when you were 7 or 8 years old, and,
Do you
having it up in
think
your house now.
yeah. because we're talking about Halloween, and it's so true for Halloween, but even like Christmas, I feel
Hmm.
like there are a couple times a year when it's super nostalgic, and Halloween and Christmas are the same. I don't know if it's because I keep watching the same movies I grew up with, or we have the same traditions that have rarely ever changed unless, someone moved or
Right.
someone died or whatever
Hmm.
like that. But for me, it's almost like a time capsule. So maybe that's a part of it. It's just like my piece of childhood, that piece of nostalgia is that I have these decor items and I just rewatch the same things. And so it's like I've never grown out of it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
What do you
mean,
think?
I agree totally. I mean, I think it was a magical time, especially as a kid. Like things were, it was a special time back then for you. I mean, you were Christmas was so magical. Like just in general, Halloween was so magical. I mean, I have a son. He's 4, so like, we're in a weird transition period now where it's like you said, people have moved, people have passed. So like all the traditions that I had growing up are now gone. So it's like now we're trying to create new traditions for him, and what those are going to be. Like we're still trying to figure it out, like whose house do we go to every Christmas Eve, whose house do we,
Yeah.
this is a new neighborhood that he's going to, this is going to be where his neighborhood that he's going to be trick-or-treating all these years, and these decorations hopefully mean something to him someday, and the specific movies or whatever that we watch every year, like these are all things that I'm going to try to do with him and kind of create those same memories because they don't go away. And I also do think back then is what was cool, at least when we were kids, is that there was so many like made for TV specials. And I can even kind of plug something right now is that around Halloween and Christmas, you had all these made for TV Christmas specials, Halloween specials. And when those things popped on every year, it felt like that time of year where I don't even know if we get that stuff anymore, like those made for TV. And to plug a show that I have coming up at the end of the month with Cody, and we call ourselves the Rad Dudes, and we're doing a special on all those Halloween specials that we grew up with,
Oh,
like ones that just don't exist anymore. And it's hard to even find them. Like some of these ones that came out that were just made for TV. And you just kind of wish that, they had a lot of that stuff still for kids, and maybe they do, I'm just not looking in the right places, but, like, we had cable back then, so it would, like,
yeah.
for weeks, it would be hyped on a commercial, like, "Coming
Hmm.
next Monday, at 8 o'clock, it's gonna be, which witch is which, debuting on it." It was like this Halloween cartoon, and, like, you waited all week for it, and then the following year, it's back out, and I just don't know if they have that same kind of magic anymore that we
Yeah.
had back then. So
I
it's up
don't
to
I
us
don't
to
know if they
create it, I
do.
guess.
Exactly, that's why they market
Yeah.
to us. Yeah, guys, I was thinking the same thing, like, now they have the 31 nights of Halloween on Freeform, and it's just a lot of recycled stuff that's come out at different times where they keep plugging in Harry Potter, which I guess it's Christmas
Is
and
that is
Halloween,
it is,
whatever
yeah.
you guys wanna do. But I remember watching so many movies like When Good Ghouls Go Bad or The Hollow with Nick Carter back in the day that was, Sleepy Hollow, Headless Horseman movie that was made for TV, or like Disney had Halloween Town and
Mhm.
all of those different things that, sure, we watched pretty much every year, but it always felt like there was something new and unique to that. Like you couldn't really find it anywhere else. And yeah, I just don't know. Maybe there's just such an oversaturation of things to watch now that maybe there's new things. Like I finished The Fright Crew on Hulu from Eli Roth, which I really enjoyed. It was a little TV series. It looks like they
Oh, is
might
that the
have a season
cartoon
2.
or no?
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
heard about that.
really
I
I
haven't
had
seen it yet.
fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I had fun with that. So I feel like there's some, but they just get lost in everything that we have going on right now. And people just release movies and things during the month, but I really can't think that much. But maybe I'm not as immersed in the culture of everybody younger that I can for sure
And
say.
right, and it very well could be. Like, again, he watches, there's, like, little apps, like, kids show apps where it's, like, the same shows all the time. He'll go on he watches YouTube, like, he watches other
Mm,
kids play with toys, you know what I mean? Like, those are the type of things he's watching on YouTube. So, there could be those things out there, and maybe he's still a little bit too young, but, I don't know, but it was just so prevalent when we were kids because like we said, having cable and stuff, it was like the commercials were hyping these things as big events, and,
yeah.
it just felt important.
Yeah, totally. All right, I've got one more.
Let's do it.
One more. let's see, where did it go? My goodness, I think I've lost it. Nope, there it is. AOL.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know pre-AOL, post-AOL, it was something crazy because it was yeah, the dial-up. It was weird because
Yeah.
it was one of those things, and I'm sure you probably remember as well, but, you'd be doing something and you'd be like, "Don't pick up the phone," and then they pick up the phone and the whole thing would shut down, it was crazy, like, because it was all connected to the same thing, so back then, it was like if you were
Yeah.
online, like, nobody could the phone would ring, you couldn't answer it because then that whoever was on the computer would get booted off, and, then all of a sudden, when you started to find chat rooms and stuff like, that was a whole 'nother thing, and it was so new and everybody was so oblivious to certain things. Like I can remember being in like wrestling chat rooms and some kid had like a screen name. It was like Shawn Michaels. And you really think it's him, like it's just like we're so oblivious to like what this was, this world that we're in. And yeah, but I mean it's crazy to see the progression because it went from AOL doing that kind of stuff. Um then that AIM came out and that became like the first real like messenger. And then you could make did you ever do that when you could make like your own profile and you could like
Mm-hmm.
they found you on Messenger, they could click it and it had like a little profile about like a little bit about you, whatever.
I don't
Put like
even
your
remember
favorite
what my
bands and
name
stuff.
was. Yeah,
Oh, come on.
Cody. What about you, Garrett? Did you have a name? I can't remember what I feel like my name was
Yeah.
probably like Catherine Zeta Jones, one fan or something like that, because that was usually my email address back then. Did you have a username that you
Yeah.
remember?
Mine was DX BMX was my name. So it was like DX, which is like the wrestling group back then, like D Generation X,
Yeah.
and then BMX. I did a lot of BMX riding around that time too. So when that all came out, like all the chat room and AIM and all that stuff. So I just combined DX BMX was my screen name.
It's actually a pretty sick screen name, if I might say so. That's
What's the
not
matter?
something to be
Catherine Zeta
embarrassed
Jones
about.
fan one, wasn't? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. CZJ1 fan. Yeah. That was my first, like those little like chat message boards on like websites
Mhm.
when people would just be on. And that was my first fight in 2002 was with somebody else. I was a child, but I was like, I'm the number one fan. My name says it.
Look at
Buff
Cody's name.
Michigan 69. Michigan.
What the heck?
Cody.
That
Hey.
is so funny. That's what I want everybody to do.
Oh,
Everybody in the chat right now, start plugging all your
yeah.
original AIM names. That'd be
Drop your
hilarious to
AIM
see.
names in there. Jason, you got to share your name. Somebody was like, I knew somebody once who was like Disco Princess or something. I said,
I still
cool.
remember a lot of different ones, like of people that I used to talk to that like I don't from other places. I'm like, I don't know where these people are anymore. There's one girl's like Frisbee, Poison Pez was somebody else I used to talk to all the time. I don't know where
Ooh,
that.
cool.
It's a pretty cool name, huh?
Poison Pez, where are you now?
Where are you,
That's
kid?
part of Garrett's show is he's gonna go and find all the AIM people that he knew
It's so
back in the
funny.
day. I'd watch it. Search for the AIM. AIM for the AIMs. All right, Garrett. Well, what's coming up for you in the future? I know you've got a busy October.
Yeah, I do have a busy October. Let me think. What do I got coming up? So, Friday, I'm doing a show with the guys from Dead Pit. We're doing every Friday the 13th. We do our ranking. So, like, we each take turns. So, I did it not this Friday the 13th, the last one. And this one, we're doing Wes's list. So, he's going to rank Friday the 13th movies, and then me and the other guy are going to critique it. So, we do that every Friday the
Ooh.
13th. So, we got that on Friday. I've got the Rad Pack. We just interviewed Doug Bradley and we had Denise Duff on there. We had Jose Prendez. So we did a Rad Pack episode that's going to drop next week where we interviewed all them on their new movie called Exorcists, which is out now on streaming. So they just promoted it with us on our show. So that's going to be dropping next week. Like I said, I have a show with Cody, Rad Dudes versus Halloween Specials. I
It's
have
gonna
a
be
Rad
so
Pack
cool.
show called The Blob versus the Stuff coming. I have top 20 90s horror movies coming. So it's a pretty busy month. And then we're doing From Hell and Back with Dead Pit, and it's going to be talking about the Exorcist franchise from the beginning to end. So a lot of stuff coming in October.
Oh, so much to look forward to, especially now with all the spooky content. So I
Yeah.
cannot wait to see all those.
How about you? What you
That
got
sounds
going?
really exciting. Well, Friday, we are watching Never Hike Alone 2. We're having a live watch along later that
Nice.
night, like an hour or two after the premiere of the movie, which is super exciting. I know Horror Stevie is in it. And if anybody doesn't know, Horror Stevie's been like cosplaying the horror characters, mostly Jason, since he was like extremely young. So now he's involved. I am so excited to see him in that. And then we have a Spooky Sips that we filmed not too long ago that actually involves a very special guest who was here with me in the studio. And then we just have a couple of other little surprises coming up. A couple of other guests next week. Sledgehammer Horror is going to be on. And I will also be on their show talking about our top Halloween movies. Gosh, Halloween is such a wonderful time. I'm so excited. Oh, and Dash Slash, thank you. We're making our crowd ideated horror short about murderous DoorDash shenanigans.
That's awesome. Dash Slash. I like that.
Dash
that is
Slash.
So funny.
Oh, can't wait. But Garrett, it was so nice having you on. This has actually been a longer show, so I'm sorry for keeping you, but
this was fun. It went by super quick, actually. This was great. I once we start talking nostalgia and stuff, my brain just starts going everywhere. So hope I didn't.
That's why I wanted to talk with you about that, because I've always had thoughts about nostalgia and I've talked to people, but I figured if there's going to be one king on the subject, it's going to be you.
I'll take it for sure.
Thanks, Cody. We appreciate you sticking this out, bud. And I'm looking forward to everything that you're doing with Garrett and just everything you have going on, Garrett. So appreciate the hustle. You always have something new going on, and we really like watching it because it's always fun.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, take care, everybody. We will see you around definitely next Wednesday. Check out Garrett's stuff. I will have his links down below in the description if you're watching this later. And stay spooky, my friends. Bye-bye.